Your note should stop at what is the contrapositive. And if you need to start a new page to continue on your notes, that's fine. Just make sure you add a date to the top of your new page. Also, I'd like for you to look to see if you have any highlighters. If not, go ahead and ask the teacher. I need 2 color highlighters. And the reason we're going to use 2 different color highlighters is because we're going to work a little bit with hypothesis and conclusion in a conditional statement. So let's go ahead and highlight the hypothesis and change our color for the conclusion of the given statement. Go ahead and write this down in your notes, and then I'm going to give you a conditional statement. And the conditional statement, I'm going to call this example A, is if an animal is a mammal, then it is warm-blooded. So think about what the hypothesis is. Back in your definitions, the hypothesis is the statement that follows the word if. It doesn't include the word if. So when you're highlighting the hypothesis, it's only this part right here. An animal is a mammal. And then we stop right there. And right above it, we're going to call this P. The animal being a mammal is our hypothesis. The conclusion is the word that follows, is the statement that follows then. Does not include then. It's what follows the word then. So that's going to be it is warm-blooded. And we're going to call that Q, as Q is our symbol for the conclusion. So this is example A. We're going to move on to example B, and I'd like for you to try that completely on your own. So the conditional statement for example B will be if 2 angles are supplementary, then their measure is 180 degrees. Now I don't expect you to know all that vocabulary yet, but I do expect that you are able to highlight the hypothesis in one color and the conclusion in a separate color. So go ahead and pause the video and give it a try. So I'm sure that you've already defined converse, inverse, and contrapositive from your textbook, but we're going to look at it as a symbol for each definition. So remember that our original conditional is read P arrow Q. That's the symbol form for our conditional, and this just reads if P then Q, where this arrow here means if then. So if we take this original conditional P arrow Q, P, Q, if P then Q, and we want to write the converse of it, remember that the converse is to flip the statement. So instead of P then Q, we're going to take Q to negate your original P and Q. So you're not going to change the order of P and Q, you're just going to negate it. And remember the symbol for negate is the tilde. So we're going to negate P and negate Q. And then finally we have contrapositive. And the contrapositive is when we take both the converse and the inverse and combine them. So we're going to take the opposite of Q and then the opposite of P. Okay, so now let's do a little practice with our new vocabulary, converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So we're going to write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of this given conditional, the one that we worked with earlier. If it is cloudy outside, then it is going to rain. So go ahead and pause the video, take a second to write the instructions down and the conditional statement. So the conditional statement is P then Q. So if it is cloudy outside, where it is cloudy outside is our P, it is going to rain is our Q. The converse says that we flip the statement. So instead of P then Q, we have Q then P. So if replaces the then in this Q. So if it is going to rain, then it is cloudy outside. Okay. The inverse, that's when we negate the P and the Q. We don't flip it, we don't change the order of it. We simply negate the P and negate the Q. So we're going to read it as if it is, so we'll write it right here. And then I'm going to have you do example B on your own. Okay, so now it's your turn. We're going to copy this example B. If tomorrow is Friday, then today is Thursday. And that is a true statement. I would like for you to answer the converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So answer each one, pause the video, and we will move on to a different example. And remember, if you just want clarification on any of the notes, or you want one of your teachers to just verify that the answer you put down is correct, that's what we're here for. So just make sure you raise your hand. Okay, next we're going to talk about determining truth value, meaning how do you determine if a conditional is true or false? So let's look back up here at example B. If tomorrow is Friday, then today is Thursday. We've already decided that that is a true statement. Now, to determine if a conditional statement is true or false, we always assume that the hypothesis is true. And we're really looking at to see, is the conclusion false? If the conclusion is false, then the whole statement is false. If the conclusion is true, then the whole statement is true. So when is it Friday, but today is not Thursday? We can't come up with an example to prove that this is a false statement. So because the conclusion is true when the hypothesis is true, this is a true statement. Okay, let's go back to our original conditional that we talked about earlier. If it is cloudy outside, then it will rain. We said that this was false. Well, how do we determine it is false? If you can provide a counterexample, then the statement is false. So when is it cloudy outside? So when is this true, but this is false? And an example we can say is when it snows. So when it snows, it's cloudy outside. That doesn't mean it's going to rain. So whenever the hypothesis is true, but the conclusion is false, this is a false statement. And if it's false, you'll be able to provide a counterexample. Okay, so I would like for you to finish up this last example. If you live in Virginia, then you live in Norfolk. We know the hypothesis is true. Whatever they give you as the hypothesis is true. But now tell me, is the conclusion true or false? If it's false, provide a counterexample.